educator. I am so excited to share with you this project that I've been working on for the last probably month, 2 months, which is scripting a progress monitoring tracker for teachers. So this is a demonstration of how this tracker works. If you are viewing this because you've already purchased it, thank you so much. If after viewing this video you're like, oh my gosh, I have to have this, I will put the link in the description. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is what the tracker looks like on the first page, the setup page. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy and paste your student roster into column A. Success criteria, this is what you're measuring. This is what you're tracking. So you can put your standards here, your objectives, whatever codes that you're using, specific behaviors that you're looking for and that you're assessing. So this area is just kind of open to whatever you need it to be. Then your activity name, so these are the assignments that you decide that you want to actually use for progress monitoring, the date of the assignment, and then the highest number of questions per criteria. So this is probably the hardest part of the template to understand. So what I wanted to do is do a quick demonstration. So when we're progress monitoring, we are assuming that we have aligned every question to a standard that we are measuring for mastery, right? So this is just a sample document using the Common Core standard reading literature 2nd grade. So this assignment is covering standards RL 2.1 and RL 2.2. This is a 5-question assignment, and I see that I have 1, 2, 3 standards that are addressing 2.1 and 1, 2 that are addressing 2.2. The highest number out of 3 and 2 is 3. So that's what I am going to record over here in column E for each assignment. What this does is it ensures that I have left enough rows on the student sheets so that you can track each question. So let's look at what that means. Actually, before we move on to that, let's finish the first screen. So you have your instructions for use here. After you've entered in your student data, probably the second thing you're going to want to do is come down here to your class overview color coding scheme. And if you need to adjust the color coding for, below level, slightly below level, on level, and above level, all you have to do is just double click or just click and change the number to whatever you need it to be. And it will automatically adjust everywhere else in the spreadsheet. That's pretty much all the setup there is, and you can come back as many times as you need to. You can add new students, you can add new success criteria, and you can definitely continue your running list of activities. So what I have here is just, it's the first month of school, and I'm just now starting to track some data. So I've got 4 students that I'm working with, again, looking at criteria 2.1, 2.2. I've given 4 activities so far. I've got my dates and then the highest number of questions for a particular criteria. So once I've got this data set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the progress monitoring tracking menu up top, and I am going to run the setup. So what the setup does is it's going to create a class overview page for me. And it's also going to create an individual student sheet for all of the students that I have listed in my class roster. And whatever information I've already set up on the setup sheet is going to preload. I can always, like I said, go back and add more criteria, add more activities as I need it. So let's look at Kevin's data. So for activity 1, I've already scored this, and I'm just going to quickly make up some data here. So we're going to use Y's and N's. So Y's for yeses, N's for no's. So they got the question right or not. So we're going to say yes, yes, no, no, no. He struggled a little bit on that assignment. But by this time, he's got everything correct. And think this was 2 questions. This was 2 questions. And so what you're going to see is that as you're doing that, it's automatically calculating percent correct. So as we continue to add assignments and we continue to add the data for each student, we're getting updated percent corrects. Now let me just go through and very quickly, we're going to say Sasha, she knows this. She has got this. We're going to need to plan something different for her. Mary's struggling. Mary is going to need some intensive one-on-one help. Totally just making this up. And we'll say Caden is about half and half. So I'm not sure what's going on with Caden because he started out strong. Here we go. All right, so here's some data. So now that I have updated all my data, and every time you either add a new student or you add a new success criteria or an activity, once you've added your data, you're going to come back up here to the tracking menu, and we're going to tell it to update the data. And what that's going to do is it's going to update everything that we have on our class overview page. So I'm going to wait until this updates. And so then it takes us to our class overview page. And so here again, I have those percent correct totals for each student, but I also have a class average. And so now what I can do is I can actually come up here to the progress monitoring tracking menu and I can generate a couple of tables. So I can generate class average by success criteria. And so this is going to give me a chart based on my class average for each of those success criteria that I am tracking. Right now I'm only tracking 2. As the year goes on, the spreadsheet and chart are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But this just gives me a very quick visual of what I've got. The second table, and this is a known issue, and I am working on fixing this in the script, but I'm not having a lot of luck. But it's a super quick manual fix. So if we want to look at student averages by success criteria, what I want to do before I even look at anything is I want to make sure that the chart is selected. I'm going to click these 3 little arrows and edit chart. And then I'm just going to click this second to last box right here to use row 1 as headers. And that's going to give me all my data cleanly and with a label and a key here. So here I can see how Kevin is doing visually, not just with the numbers. Mary, Mary got everything wrong. So Mary, for RL1, you know, she's down, she's pretty low, and I need some intensive support for her. And then my class average here as well. What I would recommend, and I'm working on this as well, but what I would recommend you doing is, because as your chart gets longer and longer throughout the year, you're probably not going to have a lot of room for these charts right here. So what you can do is you can either leave them on this page, but put them kind of far down at the bottom underneath your class list. So your table, as you add a success criteria, your table is going to be building across. There's not going to be any, so if you have 25 students, there's nothing going to ever be down here. So you can move your charts down here. And what I would recommend is putting the date that you ran these tables down beside it or down below it. That way you can track growth over time just really quickly and visually. The other thing that I wanted to mention, so if you are using other programs and you want to pull all of the data into one place, most computer programs are going to give you the same kind of item analysis chart, but it might not use yeses or nos. You can still import that data in here. You'll have to do it student by student, But if it uses an X, let's say it uses an X for correct and then nothing for incorrect. So what I can do once I copy and paste or import all of that data, I can actually do Control or Command F for find, and I can look for all of the X's. And then what I can do is I can do a find and replace. So if it's an X, let's say that means that it was correct. So I'm just going to replace that with a Y. I'm going to replace all, and then it very quickly changes all of those to Y's for me. And then when I update my data, it's going to color code those for me. So that is the basics of using this tracker. I am going to continue working on some additions and some new features. So when I do that, I will send out notifications in Teachers Pay Teachers for you to come back and re-download your purchase. That way you always have the latest updates. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later.